From the creators of the popular science show with millions of YouTube subscribers comes the Minute Earth podcast. Every episode of the show dives deep into a science question you might not even know you had. But once you hear the answer, you'll want to share it with everyone you know. Why do rivers curve? Why did the T-Rex have such tiny arms? And why do so many more kids need glasses now than they used to? Spoiler alert, it isn't screen time. Our team of scientists digs into the research and breaks it down into a short, entertaining explanation, jam-packed with science facts and terrible puns. Subscribe to Minute Earth wherever you like to listen.
Hi, friends. Are you looking for a new podcast? Maybe something you can share with your littles? Something that has some storytelling in it? Well, then look no further. We have Storytime with Philip and Mommy, where my son and I sit and discuss all the great books that you might love while we read them. So, Little Golden Books, Berenstain Bears, and even the new classics like Bluey. We sit down, we read, we discuss, and we have so much fun doing it. Come and join us. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Well, howdy everybody. It's Mick Sullivan, and this is The Fast and the Curious, episode 93. This episode is about milk, but it's not about good milk. It's about bad milk. It's about something called milk sickness. It's about something that people did. It's about a couple things that people did to make milk less dangerous to drink, because for a long period of time, it was really, really dangerous. Milk wasn't alone in that regard. There were all sorts of things that were more dangerous, then than they are today. So we should all be grateful that we live in a time when, things are not so dangerous when it comes to food and when it comes to drink and all of that. Thank your lucky stars. I don't really have much else to say. Let's get to the stories, you all. All right. Each year, after the spring rains come and go, a dryness sets into the land stretching from the Wabash River Valley in Indiana and Illinois, through Kentucky and into Tennessee. And in the 1800s, that dry soil created a problem for farmers and settlers, particularly settlers with cattle. When the rain's not falling, grass doesn't do much growing. And when the grass doesn't do much growing, cows have to go out searching for something else to eat. Sometimes that's okay, and sometimes it's not. Depends on what those cows decide to eat. You see, when it comes down to it, cows are not picky eaters. A cow's gotta eat, even if what it eats tastes gross. Throughout much of the early 1800s in that same land, Indiana to Tennessee, people noticed another, more concerning thing happening. Starting in the late summer, a sickness would often develop among people and animals. Some folks called it the staggers. Some called it the trembles. Some called it the slows. Everyone called it bad. It was bad, like really bad. Typical symptoms that people would experience included nausea, aches, vomiting, trouble with movement, and in some cases the sick person would feel the effects and be confined to bed for years. In many more cases, however, the symptoms went away. But they went away because the person died. So, not really a win in the end. One famous loser in this mystery sickness lottery was a woman named Nancy Hanks Lincoln, mother of a boy named Abraham Lincoln. You may recall that her death affected her son very much, but also brought into his life a stepmother named Sarah, who was among the first to encourage his love of reading and learning. So who knows? Had this sickness not shown up in Indiana, where they were at the time of her death, Abe might never have lived the life of learning that led him to the White House. History is full of random moments that lead to major outcomes. But I digress. Back to the sickness. Animals were not immune to this mysterious malady either. Symptoms for sick animals could be similar to what people dealt with, but it also included depression, loss of appetite, loss of balance. The sickness reared its head each year at the same time, late summer, early fall. And each year, people watched helplessly as animals, especially young ones, and fellow townspeople, fell ill. And they knew that many of them would never recover. It was the frontier, far from the big cities of the East, where most of the educated doctors at the time would have been found. But even those big city doctors would have been at a loss to know immediately who or what was causing such a supreme and expansive sickness. In this day and age, there was no shortage of things that could make people sick. Cholera, typhoid fever, diphtheria, tuberculosis, scarlet fever, and that's just scratching the surface with a dirty, unwashed finger. Whoa, Nelly, things could get bad. This particular perplexing ailment was one of many that you'd basically just hope not to get. But hope is not always great preventative medicine, nor is it a dependable antidote. So, in 1830, the Kentucky General Assembly offered a prize of $600 for a solution to the problem. $600 was a lot of money at the time. But alas, the mystery remained, and the prize went unawarded. I mean, people weren't clueless. After a while, it was pretty easy to look around and see who got sick and who didn't. With some observation, you could figure out that people who drank milk were the only ones getting sick. So yeah, it had to do with milk and milk products, which is why they started calling it milk sickness. But the what of the problem was one thing.
Thanks there, detective. People who drink milk get sick. That ain't gonna earn you a $600 reward. What we need, Sherlock groans, is a why. Why do they get sick? And a what can we do about it?
There was no clear answer why some milk, some butter, and some cheese was so dangerous. There were no clues at all. There was no taste difference between poison bad news milk and happy good time milk. And importantly, during much of the year, there was no problem at all with any milk. Only around the end of the summer and into the fall. And any dairy detectives would find the milk mystery thickened upon learning that the cows giving bad news milk almost never got sick. Only creatures that drank their milk wound up with the
staggers,
the slows, the trembles,
the milk sickness. So if milk was the problem, why were some cows good, some cows bad? And how come no milk-producing cows were harmed in the making of this epidemic? It's in this same decade, the 1830s, that a woman may or may not have entered the history books. I say may or may not because while her story is fantastic and important, there is nearly nothing from her lifetime to validate that the story you are about to hear is true. In history, there are primary sources and secondary sources. And before we go any further, I would just like to make sure that everybody knows the difference between those two things. Primary sources are documents, objects, or images that are from a particular time and relate to a particular person's life and experiences. They can also be from a historic event. Things like a photo of Lincoln's second inauguration, Anne Frank's diary, Abigail Adams' letters, or Marie Curie's radioactive journals. Those are all primary sources. People can learn with accuracy and detail about a past time from a first-hand account. But, just be careful with the radioactive journals if you ever need to use them. Now, secondary sources are things like paintings, books written years after an event or a person lived. Also, a secondary source is anything that offers commentary and analysis. So any biography you read is a secondary source. This podcast is a secondary source. Secondary sources aren't necessarily a bad thing. You just have to consider where they find their information. Well, when it comes to information about Dr. Anna Pierce Bixby, there's not a lot to draw from. There are not many primary sources, and her story has become legend, perhaps. And the first robust account we have of her is from the 1940s, which is 80 years after she died. Could her story have been kept alive over that time? Yes, sure. Could it have changed as it was passed on over the years? Also, yes. It is hard to know where the truth ends and legend begins. But as the story goes, she was born in Philadelphia in 1812 and traveled westward to Rock Creek, Illinois with her family. On the western frontier, she found a society dependent on farming. This meant one problem with crops or animals could upset the entire community's way of life dramatically. As a young woman, she returned east briefly to study to be a midwife, and it is said that she also had some training in dentistry. All of this meant that upon her return to Illinois, she was probably the most advanced medical professional in the Rock Creek area of the early 1800s. That's probably why she's known as Dr. Anna. The story says that sometime in the 1830s, she also set about to solve the mystery of milk sickness in the area. As an observant and thoughtful person, it became clear to her that the illness wasn't the result of air, or water, or minerals, or magic, or anything like that. It came about because of something the cows were eating. So she brought her dog along and headed out into the woods on a mission to follow the cows and see what they ate when the grass was all dry and brown, or gone altogether. While trying not to make it awkward watching cows eat all day, she came upon another woman in the woods, and this woman was Shawnee, a Native American whose people had been living recently in the area where Ohio and Kentucky meet. This woman seemed to be trying to stay undercover. The westward migration of Americans had forced her people west, and she was looking to avoid a fate that many other natives had experienced. Anna invited her back to her home and offered her food. Surely this Shawnee woman was curious as to why this American woman and her dog were wandering the woods just trying to watch cows eat. "It's not weird, it's for science," Dr. Anna probably replied. And it was then that the Shawnee woman shed a light on the problem. It was a familiar one to her. The cows were eating white snake root, a flowering herb that grows each year when the soil gets dry. White snake root is poisonous, and its poison is passed through milk. Ding, ding, ding! This information was revelatory to Dr. Anna. She ran tests to make sure that this was true, and when she realized it was, she began to organize the town to combat white snake root, first by avoiding milk when it was in bloom, and second by training people to recognize white snake root in the wild. And lastly, she gathered teams to head out and remove it from the areas where the cows were grazing. Dr. Anna is remembered in the community as the woman who got to the root cause of milk sickness. Of course, she couldn't have done it without the Shawnee woman in the story. But then again, she may not have done it at all. If she did, I'd hate to take credit away from her. But also, doesn't the Shawnee woman deserve a bunch of credit too? In any case, the white snake root was the problem. It wasn't germs or microbes or anything like that. It was good old-fashioned poison. The white snake root produces a poison that just so happens to pass through milk, and for this reason, it would pass through milk-producing cows and not affect them. But it would affect whoever drank the milk, calf or human. It even got you if you ate butter made from the poisoned milk. This discovery in the 1800s didn't eradicate the problem, though. Milk sickness wasn't officially linked to white snake root until the 1920s. Did a Shawnee woman explain it to a young medical professional in Illinois who then taught her town? Maybe. Are we sure? Nope, I don't think we are. Was milk sickness real? Yeah, totally. Was it bad? Yeah, also totally. Is it something you need to worry about today? No, not really. The last case of milk sickness in America was in the 1960s, and the 2 children who drank the bad time poison milk were cured very quickly. But still, don't let your cow eat white snake root.
All you need is a few minutes to start your day off with something historic when you listen to the This Day in History podcast. Every day there's a new episode for you to listen and learn about what happened that day way back when. Today could be the day a famous mobster met their end, or the first milestone for humans in space. Who knows what history today holds? Find out when you listen and subscribe to This Day in History wherever you get your podcasts. That's This Day in History wherever you get your podcasts.
We're the All Creatures Podcast. Each week, Angie and I explore and share amazing details about the many animals we share our world with.
Plus, Chris and I are both PhD scientists and educators. So we do the deep dives in the scientific research and then come back and share what we learn in a fun and casual way. We also speak with other scientists, animal experts, activists, and many other conservation enthusiasts from all over the planet.
So you can find the All Creatures Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
The past and the curious.
This month's You Have 30 Seconds is courtesy of Isaac, who shares a city with me. And here's an event that takes place in our city. Take it away.
Hi, I'm Isaac, and I'm going to tell you about the Kentucky Derby that happened in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. This May will be the 150th anniversary. Only 3-year-old horses can race. In 1973, Secretariat became the fastest horse to run the Derby in 1 minute, 59.4 seconds. In 2013, a massive TV as big as 3 basketball courts was built at the track. Mario Kart was the first thing to be played on the screen.
Nice work, Isaac. I totally forgot about Mario Kart being played on that gigantic Jumbotron. That's awesome. Good detail. Great work. Great to hear from you. And it was a pleasure to share this with everyone. If anyone else out there has a You Have 30 Seconds, all you got to do is record it with a voice memo on your a grown-up's phone or iPad or something like that. There's all sorts of ways. And you just email it to me at hello@thepastandthecurious.com and put your name and information and that it's You Have 30 Seconds. Thanks.
It's quiz time. It's quiz time. It's quiz time. Time.
Okay, everybody, it's quiz time, and these questions are about milk, as you might have guessed. Question number 1. In America, many states have, official things like official flowers and official birds, stuff like that. Well, many states have official drinks. How many states claim milk as their official state drink? By my count, there are 20 American states that have officially made milk their state drink. That includes New York, Oregon, my home state of Kentucky. Florida's state drink is orange juice, which makes sense. Indiana's is water, which is probably the most practical. But Ohio's state drink is tomato juice, which is definitely a choice, Ohio. Okay, anyway, question number 2. On average, how much milk does it take to make 1 pound of cheese? It takes 1.25 gallons of milk, or if you put that into weight, that's about 10 pounds of milk to make 1 pound of cheese. All right, question 3, your third and final question. On July 4th, 1850, an American president attended a fundraiser at the Washington Monument. He returned to the White House and famously ate a meal of cherries and iced milk. Within hours, he was sick, and within days, he had died. Do you know which president this was? Well, it was Zachary Taylor. I always found it very odd that he died on my birthday, and he's buried in my hometown. Ooh.
Knock, knock.
Oh, hello, Mr. Borden.
Hey, can I interest you in a dehydrated meat biscuit?
What?
Why, it's my own invention. The portable desiccated soup bread.
Soup bread? But I thought you said it was meat.
Yes, it is. But it's really like a meat glue I invented, which is then formed into a hardened bread that won't spoil. It won gold at the London World's Fair, and I think it could keep everyone from going hungry. Just one problem, though.
Oh, what's that?
It tastes awful.
Well, you're not really selling me on it now, buddy.
I know, but I can't lie. It's nutritious and filling, but but it's also like really, really putrid.
Well, I'd expect nothing less from a desiccated meat biscuit. Thank you for the warning. I'll just find something else to eat when I'm ready. Good luck!
Gail Borden was one of those people who was constantly inventing things. He was a problem solver. But maybe he wasn't always the best problem solver. His dehydrated meat biscuits were supposed to feed pioneers, soldiers, travelers, sailors, anyone doing things or going places with no guarantee of food. They'd fill you up, they'd give you energy, and they'd make you rich. The meat biscuits won a gold medal at the 1851 World's Fair because they were theoretically helpful, but they weren't practically helpful. What good is food if your literal gut reaction is to immediately send it up once you get it down? Another invention he devised around this time was a wind wagon capable of traveling on both land and water. Fun idea, not a fun ride. He basically modified a wagon, similar to the ones that so many people took out west in the 1800s. Those people had horses or oxen or something else to pull the wagons. You could use a horse with his wagon, but his also had the option to be powered by a sail. You know, like a boat, but on land. Now, he didn't invent the wind wagon. Plenty of other people got the idea to put a sail on top of their wagons to harness the power of the wind on the wide open prairies. But the Borden wind wagon was unique in how he modified the vehicle to also be waterproof, so you could sail it over land or across rivers and lakes. It's a fun idea, right? Well, he convinced a crew of people in Texas to take a ride, and they were a little bit nervous. But as the sails filled and the wagon began to roll along the beach, the people changed their tune. Nice work, Gail. Nice. However, it sounds like old Gail Borden didn't tell them about the amphibious nature of his design. When he turned sharply into the water, they panicked and all moved to the side closest to the shore. This, of course, tipped the vehicle over, which then quickly capsized in the surf. A wagon load of soggy, angry people made their way from the beach that afternoon, and Gail moved on to other ideas, eventually settling on something near and dear to his heart: milk. For much of history, milk was kind of a troublesome drink. People wanted it, but it wasn't always safe. For farmers with a few cows to supply their family, it wasn't too big of a deal. You just keep them away from whitesnake root and don't leave the milk sitting in the sun, and you'd probably be okay for a few days. But once cities started to fill up with lots and lots of people, the demand for milk in those places skyrocketed. Once upon a time, it would have been common to find most homes, even in New York City, had a cow in their yard. But space disappeared with growing numbers of people, so an industry had to develop around supplying people with the things they needed. And milk was one of those things. If you know anything about industry in the 1800s, you might guess that the dairy business could be a dirty business. Especially a dirty business if you never wash your milk pails. Milk as a commercial good in major cities really got going at a mom and pop sort of level. You got a few extra cows, you milk them, you dangle a pair of unwashed pails from a yoke on your shoulders, and you carry that milk around the city, offering to sell a few slurps. And when you find someone who would like some of your who-knows-how-fresh milk, you set down the pails, you dip in an unwashed ladle, and you scoop the milk into whatever container they have that they probably didn't wash either. Sounds great, right? From there, it got worse. Dairies popped up with large yards filled with cattle eating anything from garbage to leftovers from the nearby brewery. These places were very unclean places, but the cows were milked and the milk was sold. Of course, dairymen got greedy and wished to stretch their profits. So they'd water down the milk, giving them more liquid to sell. Of course, watering down milk changes its consistency, and it also tends to give it a grayish color. So to fool people into thinking it was pure milk, they'd add some chalk or even plaster to make it look more pure. You think that's bad? Oh, it gets so much worse. Sometimes milk would go unsold and start to spoil, and dairy owners couldn't stomach losing their potential milk profits, so they preserved the milk by adding formaldehyde. This is the same chemical that funeral homes use to prevent decomposition. Let's just say it's bad for people who are currently alive. Because of all of these things, milk was deadly. From New York to California, if you weren't 100% completely sure about the quality of the milk you drank, it could have terrible consequences. People died every day, and as a result, many people stopped trusting milk. But the country was thirsty for a solution. And along comes the inventor of the dehydrated meat biscuit, Gail Borden. While traveling across the Atlantic, he had witnessed firsthand how bad milk can kill. And in the 1850s, he set about to solve the problem. A few years before Louis Pasteur and the idea of germ theory would lead to safer practices, Gail Borden wrote that milk was a living fluid, which is correct. There's all sorts of microscopic things going on in a glass of milk. Through experimentation and adapting ideas, Borden found a way to make milk safe and easy to preserve, and he did it without formaldehyde. From a group of Shakers in New York, he learned about a vacuum pan that they used to condense fruit juice. So he devised a way to do something similar with milk. In his system, milk would be heated in a special tool at a low heat for a long period of time. The low heat guaranteed that the milk wouldn't burn. But milk contains a lot of water, so the heating process would cause the water to evaporate, leaving only the milkiest part of the milk. Condensed milk, it was called. A bit of sugar was added before canning, and the result was a delicious, thick milk, which would stay safe and sound for anyone to drink for months, if not more. It is said that he started selling his product door to door. Knock, knock.
Hey, aren't you the meat biscuit guy?
Well, yeah, but I'm wondering if you'd be interested in my condensed milk.
Condensed milk? What do you mean by condensed? Are you telling me that you squeezed a gallon of milk into that little can? Oh my gosh, imagine the pressure. You're trying to sell me a milk bomb that will explode inside my kitchen. I'll take my chances with a guy ladling milk from the dirty bucket, thank you.
No. That's not what I mean by condensed. I use a machine to evaporate it.
Evaporate it? Oh, so now you're trying to sell me a milk cloud? The milk vapors? What, milky air? No thanks, Mr. Meat Biscuit.
No, please listen, I promise. It's just a process. I evaporate some, and what's left I put in a can. And it's safe from spoiling, I promise. Hey, I tell you what, I'll open it. You'll see that it won't explode or release a cloud of milk or whatever nonsense you imagine. And then just take a taste. I promise it's safe. And unlike my other invention, it's actually pretty tasty.
Oh, very well, if it'll get you off my steps. Say, I think you're onto something, Mr. Borden. I'll take 6 cans, please.
As luck would have it, Gail Borden ramped up production of his canned condensed milk right around the time the American Civil War got going, and the United States Army became his biggest customer, and thirsty soldiers looking for a little liquid nourishment in the field became his biggest fans. Which was great, because this was around the time that the press was really shining a light on the dangers of the milk industry in America. Borden's condensed milk was a safe solution, but it wasn't the only solution. When Louis Pasteur first spread the idea of pasteurization, milk wasn't on his mind. Wine was. The process doesn't do much damage to liquids, but it kills or else deactivates bacteria that could develop and quickly spoil the milk, or make it harmful to humans. Americans came to accept pasteurized milk as the preferred safe way to drink, and this is largely due to dozens of milk stations that opened in New York City and then around the country. Thanks to the philanthropy of a wealthy Jewish immigrant named Nathan Strauss, milk stations offered cheap, safe milk for the poor, as well as on-site medical staff to help with any other needs. Mr. Strauss operated these stations at a loss, meaning he didn't make any money. He actually lost money making sure that people were cared for. But he felt that his efforts were saving lives and improving the conditions of families. Pasteurized milk is the milk that you may buy at the store today, but condensed milk remains on shelves today as well. You can usually find it in the baking aisle at your local grocer. Of course, beyond all the lives saved, perhaps the most enduring legacy of Gail Borden was the eventual face of the company. Let's call her a spokesbovine. Elsie the cow has been synonymous with Borden condensed milk and related products since the turn of the century.
It's Dr. Awkward, the palindrome professor. It's Dr. Awkward, the palindrome professor. It's Dr. Awkward. It's Dr. Awkward, palindrome.
So recently I was in Boston and several people asked me the same question. When is Dr. Awkward coming back? I didn't know how to answer because I know some listeners out there aren't nuts about the guy. And frankly, I usually get put off when he shows up. It's been years since he's been on. So I thought I'd give it a try once again. Maybe things have changed with old Dr. Awkward. Now, if you haven't heard his segment from years past, he's been on 3 times. This makes 4. There's one important thing you need to know about Dr. Awkward. He will only speak in palindromes. Now, palindromes are words or phrases that are spelled the same backwards as they are forwards. Everything this dude says is a palindrome. It's the same backwards and forwards. It's really bizarre. Well, without any further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Awkward back to the show.
Is it I? It is I.
Yes, it is you.
Yo, Banana Boy!
I beg your pardon? I am no banana boy. Oh, unless you're talking about that banana episode that I did. That one was fun. I know you haven't been here in a while, but have you kept up with the episodes I've released?
Go, dog!
I'm choosing to interpret that as a yes. So, well, do you have a favorite episode, Dr. Awkward?
Tell a ballet.
Yes, we did tell a ballet story a few years ago. Maria Tallchief. What else? What else did you like?
Race fast, safe car.
Well, yeah, we've done some episodes about cars and, also train cars. Hey, what kind of car do you drive, Dr. Awkward?
A Toyota.
Oh, nice. What model?
Civic.
Well, I think Honda makes the Civic, Dr. Awkward.
A Toyota's a Toyota.
Yeah, I guess that's right. Hey, I wonder, is there any subject that you would like to hear about on the Past and the Curious in the future?
Maps, DNA, and spam.
Spam? I mean, maps and DNA, sure. Spam? I guess that, maybe, I don't know. What else?
Lion oil.
Not sure that I could come up with a story about that.
Llama Mall.
Would that be a mall for llamas to shop at? Or a mall where you buy llamas? I wonder if... Hey, what was that?
Was it a cat I saw?
I don't think so.
Was it a bar or bat I saw?
Neither one of those.
Was it Elliot's toilet I saw?
It did look like a toilet, but who's Elliot and what's his toilet doing in here?
Put Elliot's toilet up!
Yeah, please leave Elliot's toilet alone. Whoever Elliot is, he doesn't need you messing with his toilet. It's a really fast toilet. Can you believe this, Dr. Awkward? I'm so sorry for all of the trouble and commotion during this interview. Hey, man, it's really giving me a headache. I wonder if I have any acetaminophen. Oh no, I only have one left.
Lonely Tylenol.
Maybe I need to eat.
Ma has a ham.
No, that doesn't sound like it will hit the spot.
So, cat tacos?
What? No, but do think some pasta might make me feel better. Nail a tired rotini in it. Order Italian. Yeah, that sounds good. Well, Dr. Awkward, this has been better than I thought. Thanks for joining us. Let's get something to eat before this gets any weirder.
It's Dr. Awkward. Palindrome.
All right, thanks for listening to episode 93 about milk. Hey, Owen, how do you feel about milk?
I think milk is very good.
What do you like to drink milk with?
Cookies. Chocolate chip cookies.
Ah, chocolate chip cookies. Classic. Ben, do you like milk?
Yes.
What do you like to drink milk with?
Like cookies?
What kind of cookies?
Like chocolate chip.
Oh, 2 for 2 on chocolate chip cookies. Wonder how everybody else out there feels. Yeah, how we feel. You like chocolate chip cookies and milk? It's a favorite for me. Maybe it's not for you, but you know, it is what it is. It's a classic combination. There's all sorts of classic combinations out there. So, thank you so much for listening to episode 93. Thanks for letting me put my kids on there and listening to them. And, you know, thanks to Dr. Awkward, I guess. Maybe he'll be back. So, I hope you have a great summer. It's time. The swimming pool just opened up this weekend. We'll be heading there on Monday. So looking forward to that. I have some people that I need to thank. First and foremost, Maddie and Graham Globus in New York City. Maddie and Graham, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you enjoy the show. And I think where you live is like one of the coolest places in the world. So enjoy. I hope you get to maybe go do some fun stuff this summer. Everybody. That goes for everybody. And that goes for our next Patreon thank you, who has an awesome name. Rusty Salmon, thank you for your support. Everything you have done helps us keep the lights on, as it were. Helps me keep making the show, which I do in my free time. So just saying. Thank you so much, everyone. Everyone, I'll talk to you in episode 94. This has been Mick Sullivan with The Past and the Curious. I hope your summer gets off on the right foot. Adios.
Milk. Milk. Milky milk. Milk. Milk.